Sophia Carter never believed in love, not because she hated romance, but because every time she trusted someone, they gave her a reason not to trust again. At 27, she was already one of the youngest operations managers in one of Chicago's fastest-growing companies. She was smart, hard-working, organized, and respected by everyone who worked with her. Every morning, she arrived before everyone else. Every evening, she left after everyone else. Work had become her entire life. Most people thought she was successful and happy. They saw the expansive apartment, the elegant clothes, and the confident smile she wore every day. What they didn't see were the sleepless nights. They didn't know about the betrayal that had shattered her heart 3 years earlier. Back then, Sophia had been engaged to a man she thought she would marry, a man she trusted completely. Just 2 months before their wedding, she discovered that he had been cheating on her for over a year. The heartbreak nearly destroyed her. Since then, she had built walls around her heart. Tall walls, strong walls, walls nobody could break, especially not men like Ethan Hayes. Ethan was the CEO of the company, 32 years old, handsome enough to make women stare when he walked into a room, confident enough to know it. His dark hair, sharp jawline, and charming smile made him impossible to ignore. But what irritated Sophia the most wasn't his looks. It was his personality. Ethan flirted with everyone. Receptionists, clients, assistants, even women he met for only 30 seconds. To him, everything seemed like a game. Sophia couldn't stand it. Whenever he tried to charm her, she responded with cold professionalism. Whenever he joked with her, she ignored him. Whenever he complimented her, she changed the subject. And strangely enough, that only made Ethan more interested. One Monday morning, Sophia entered the conference room carrying several files. The weekly executive meeting was about to begin. As she arranged the documents on the table, Ethan walked in. "Good morning, Sophia." She nodded without looking up. "Morning." Ethan sat across from her. "You know, most people smile when someone says good morning." Sophia continued organizing her papers. Most people don't have deadlines waiting for them. A few people around the table laughed. Ethan smiled. "I think one day I'll make you smile." Sophia finally looked at him. "You should focus on increasing company profits instead." More laughter filled the room. Even Ethan laughed. For some reason, he enjoyed challenging her. And for some reason, she enjoyed proving that his charm didn't work on her. Weeks passed. Then months. Their relationship remained exactly the same. He teased. Their relationship remained exactly the same. He teased. She resisted. He smiled. She rolled her eyes. But little by little, something began changing. Not in Sophia. In Ethan? At first, he didn't notice it himself. He started finding excuses to visit her office. Sometimes he asked about project reports. Sometimes he asked questions he could easily answer himself. Sophia noticed. She simply pretended not to. One evening, most employees had already gone home. Rain tapped softly against the office windows. The city lights shimmered in the distance. Sophia sat alone at her desk, finishing an important presentation for a major client. The deadline was the next morning. She had been working for nearly 12 hours. A knock interrupted her concentration. Without waiting for an answer, Ethan stepped inside. He was carrying 2 cups of coffee. Sophia sighed. "What do you want?" "You've been here all day. You skipped lunch. I'm aware. You'll get sick if you keep working like this." Sophia finally looked up. "Why do you care?" For a brief moment, Ethan didn't answer. The playful smile disappeared from his face. Then he shrugged. "I care about all my employees." Neither was Ethan. Sophia returned her attention to her laptop. "Why?" "Then explain it." For the next hour, they worked together. Then it became casual, the kind she hadn't shared in a long time. Neither of them realized that this simple evening would become the beginning of everything. The beginning of feelings neither of them expected. The beginning of mistakes neither of them could avoid. And the beginning of a love story that would completely change both of their lives. The following week was unusually busy. The company had secured one of the biggest contracts in its history, and everyone was working overtime to prepare the final presentation. Sophia barely had time to breathe. Emails flooded her inbox every hour. Meetings filled her schedule, and somehow Ethan always seemed to appear whenever she looked exhausted. One afternoon, she walked into the break room and found a fresh cup of coffee waiting on the counter. A small sticky note was attached to it. Asterisk, for the hardest working manager in Chicago. Asterisk. No signature. She didn't need one. Only one person in the building would write something that annoying. Sophia rolled her eyes, but she took the coffee anyway. The next day, she found lunch waiting on her desk. The day after that, someone sent her favorite chocolate. Every single time, there was no signature. Every single time, she knew exactly who was responsible. What frustrated her most was that she was slowly starting to like it. And that terrified her. It was her father. The moment she answered, she knew something was wrong. His voice sounded weak. For nearly 20 minutes, she listened as he talked about medical appointments and treatments. When the call ended, Sophia stared at her desk in silence. The pressure she had been carrying for months suddenly felt unbearable. Before she realized it, tears had begun sliding down her cheeks. "Nothing. You're crying." I said, "I'm fine." Ethan didn't move. For once, he wasn't smiling. For once, he wasn't flirting. He simply looked concerned, genuinely concerned. And somehow, that made Sophia feel even more emotional, because nobody had looked at her that way in a very long time. After a moment, Ethan quietly placed a box of tissues on her desk. "I'll leave." Sophia looked surprised. "That's it?" Ethan nodded. "Sometimes people don't need solutions." He started walking toward the door. "They just need someone to care." Then he left. Instinctively, she reached forward to grab something. Anything. Instead, she crashed directly into someone's chest. Strong arms caught her before she could fall. "Ethan?" she whispered. Before either of them could react, another loud thunderclap shook the building. Sophia flinched. Her face moved upward. At the exact same moment, Ethan turned toward her voice. And suddenly, their lips touched. For a second. Then two. Neither moved. Neither breathed. The entire world seemed to stop. Sophia's heart pounded violently. Ethan felt frozen in place. Then, emergency lights flickered on throughout the hallway. Soft red light illuminated their faces. Sophia immediately stepped backward. Her eyes widened. "Oh my God!" The words barely escaped her lips. Ethan looked just as shocked. For the first time since she had known him, he seemed completely speechless. Neither knew what to say. Neither knew what to do. The hallway felt impossibly silent. Finally, Sophia grabbed her folders. I have to go." Without waiting for a response, she hurried away. Ethan remained standing there, alone, watching her disappear, touching his lips unconsciously, and realizing that the brief, accidental kiss had affected him far more than it should have. Much more, because, for the first time in years, Ethan Hayes wasn't thinking about a game. He wasn't thinking about flirting. He wasn't thinking about fun. He was thinking about Sophia. Only Sophia. And that realization scared him more than anything.
The entire weekend, Sophia couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that moment again. The darkness, the thunder, Ethan's arms catching her before she fell, and the accidental kiss. She hated that she kept thinking about it. More importantly, she hated that a small part of her didn't want to forget it. Monday morning arrived. Sophia entered the office determined to act normal, professional, focused, unaffected. Unfortunately, Ethan had apparently decided to do the exact same thing. When she walked into the morning meeting, he was already there discussing business with several executives. No flirting, no teasing, no playful comments, nothing. At first, Sophia felt relieved. But as the meeting continued, something strange happened. She found herself waiting for him to say something, anything. Yet he never did. He treated her exactly like every other employee. And for reasons she couldn't explain, that bothered her. The entire week continued that way. Ethan remained polite, professional, respectful, but distant, very distant. One afternoon, Sophia saw him walking through the lobby with a female client. The woman laughed at something he said. Normally, Ethan would have looked completely comfortable. Instead, he looked distracted, almost uninterested. The woman touched his arm flirtatiously. Ethan gently moved away without noticing. Sophia watched from across the room. For the first time since meeting him, she realized something. He wasn't flirting anymore. Not with receptionists. Not with assistants. Not with clients. Not with anyone. It was as if a switch inside him had suddenly turned off. Meanwhile, Ethan was fighting a battle of his own. For years, relationships had never been complicated. If he liked someone, he flirted. If they flirted back, great. If not, he moved on. Simple, easy, safe. But Sophia was different. The more he cared about her, the more careful he became. The last thing he wanted was for her to think he was playing games. One evening, nearly everyone had gone home. Sophia remained in her office reviewing financial reports. A soft knock interrupted her. She looked up. Ethan stood in the doorway. "Can we talk?" Sophia immediately felt nervous. About what? He stepped inside. About us. Her heart skipped. There is no us. Ethan smiled slightly. See, that's exactly the problem. Sophia crossed her arms. What do you want, Ethan? For a moment, he seemed unusually.
I want you to stop looking at me like I'm the villain. Sophia blinked. I don't think you're a villain. Really? No. Ethan laughed quietly. You look at me like I'm a walking red flag. Sophia tried not to smile. Unfortunately, she failed. Ethan noticed immediately. There it is. What? That smile. Sophia rolled her eyes. You are impossible. And you're stubborn. For a few seconds, neither spoke. The atmosphere felt different now. Warmer, more personal, less professional. Finally, Ethan sat across from her desk. "Can I ask you something?" Sophia hesitated. "Fine. Why do you dislike me so much?" The question caught her off guard. She looked away. "I don't dislike you." "You definitely did." Sophia sighed. "Because men like you are dangerous." Ethan frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means charming men always know exactly what to say." His expression softened. "And someone hurt you." Sophia immediately regretted saying anything. She stood up. "We're done talking." But Ethan remained seated. "I'm sorry." The words surprised her. "What?" "I'm sorry someone made you believe trust is a mistake." For a moment, neither moved. The silence between them felt heavier than ever. Then Ethan slowly stood. "I know you don't trust me." Sophia remained quiet. "And honestly?" He smiled sadly. "I don't blame you." Before she could answer, he walked away, leaving Sophia completely confused. That night, she couldn't sleep, because for the first time, she was beginning to see a side of Ethan nobody else saw. A side that felt real. A side that wasn't trying to impress anyone. And that scared her, because the more real Ethan became, the harder it became to keep her heart protected. Over the next month, they grew closer without even realizing it. Lunch breaks turned into conversations. Conversations turned into inside jokes. Inside jokes turned into late-night phone calls about work that somehow became discussions about life. One rainy evening, they sat together in a small restaurant after meeting with a client. Sophia laughed at something Ethan said. A genuine laugh. The kind that lit up her entire face. Ethan stared for a second longer than he should have. Sophia noticed. Their eyes met. Neither looked away. The world around them seemed to disappear. The restaurant, the people, the noise, everything faded. For one brief moment, it felt like only the two of them existed. And that was the exact moment Ethan realized something. He wasn't falling for Sophia. He had already fallen. Completely. Hopelessly. And there was no turning back. The next few weeks became the happiest Sophia had experienced in years. For the first time since her broken engagement, she found herself looking forward to seeing someone. And that someone was Ethan Hayes. It started with small things. Coffee brought to her office. Random conversations that somehow lasted an hour. Neither of them openly admitted what was happening, but everyone around them could see it. One afternoon, Sophia was presenting a quarterly report to several investors. Halfway through the presentation, one of the investors interrupted her. He questioned her numbers, then her strategy, then her competence. The room became uncomfortable. Sophia remained professional, but inside she was furious. Before she could respond, Ethan spoke. His voice was calm but firm. "Those numbers came directly from my office." The room fell silent. Ethan continued. Nobody said another word. The meeting continued. "You didn't have to do that." Ethan looked up from his desk. "Yes, I did. And pushing her too fast might make her run." Simple, elegant, beautiful. Ethan saw her the moment she entered, and for several seconds he completely forgot what he was saying to the people around him. Sophia noticed. A faint smile appeared on her lips. As the evening continued, they spent more and more time together, talking, laughing, dancing around feelings neither wanted to admit. At one point, they stepped outside onto a quiet balcony overlooking the city. The night air was cool. The city lights sparkled below. For a few moments, neither spoke. Then Ethan finally broke the silence. "You know something?" "What?" "I used to think success was the most important thing in life." Sophia looked at him. "And now?" Ethan's eyes stayed on hers. "Now I'm not so sure." The way he looked at her made her heart race. She immediately looked away, because she knew exactly what he was trying to say, and she wasn't sure she was ready to hear it. A few days later, Ethan made a decision. He couldn't keep pretending. He couldn't keep hiding his feelings. He wanted Sophia, not as an employee, not as a friend, not as someone he occasionally spent time with. He wanted a future with her. That evening, he knocked on her office door. Sophia looked up. "Come in." Ethan entered. For once, he seemed nervous. Actually nervous. Sophia had never seen that before. "Ethan, can we talk?" "Sure." He took a deep breath. Then another. Finally, he spoke. "Sophia, I think about you all the time." Her heartbeat instantly accelerated. Ethan continued, "When something good happens, I want to tell you first." His voice softened. "When something bad happens, you're the person I want beside me." Sophia couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't think, because deep down she had known this moment was coming. And deep down she had been afraid of it. "I know you're scared," Ethan said quietly. "I know trust doesn't come easily for you." He stepped closer. "But I need you to know something." His eyes never left hers. "I've never felt this way about anyone." The room became silent. Sophia felt every wall around her heart begin to crack. For months, she had fought these feelings, denied them, ignored them, buried them. But standing there in front of him, she could no longer lie to herself. She loved him too, and that realization scared her more than anything. Just as she opened her mouth to respond, a knock interrupted them. Both turned. The door opened. A stunning young woman walked inside. Without hesitation, she rushed directly toward Ethan and wrapped her arms around him. Sophia froze. The smile vanished from her face. Ethan looked shocked, but before he could explain anything, Sophia had already taken a step backward. Then another, and in that moment, a terrible misunderstanding began. The next few weeks became the happiest Sophia had experienced in years. For the first time since her broken engagement, she found herself looking forward to seeing someone, and that someone was Ethan Hayes. It started with small things. Morning messages, coffee brought to her office, random conversations that somehow lasted an hour. Neither of them openly admitted what was happening, but everyone around them could see it. One afternoon, Sophia was presenting a quarterly report to several investors. Halfway through the presentation, one of the investors interrupted her. He questioned her numbers, then her strategy, then her competence. The room became uncomfortable. Sophia remained professional, but inside she was furious. Before she could respond, Ethan spoke. His voice was calm but firm. Those numbers came directly from my office. The room fell silent. The investor shifted uncomfortably. Ethan continued, "And if you doubt her work, you're questioning mine as well." Nobody said another word. The meeting continued. Afterward, Sophia followed Ethan into his office. "You didn't have to do that." Ethan looked up from his desk. "Yes, I could have handled it." "I know. Then why step in?" Ethan smiled. "Because nobody gets to disrespect you while I'm in the room." For a moment, Sophia forgot how to breathe. Her heart reacted before her brain could, and that terrified her. That night, she stood in front of her apartment window for almost an hour, thinking about him, thinking about them, thinking about feelings she had promised herself she would never feel again. Meanwhile, Ethan was fighting his own battle. Every day he wanted to tell her the truth. Every day he wanted to tell her how much she meant to him. Every day he stopped himself, because he knew Sophia wasn't ready. She still carried scars, deep scars, and pushing her too fast might make her run. Then, one evening, everything changed. The company organized a charity gala. Nearly every employee attended. Sophia almost didn't go. But after receiving 3 separate reminders from Ethan, she finally agreed. When she arrived at the hotel ballroom, heads immediately turned. She wore a dark blue dress. Simple, elegant, beautiful. Ethan saw her the moment she entered, and for several seconds, he completely forgot what he was saying to the people around him. Sophia noticed. A faint smile appeared on her lips. As the evening continued, they spent more and more time together, talking, laughing, dancing around feelings neither wanted to admit. At one point, they stepped outside onto a quiet balcony overlooking the city. The night air was cool. The city lights sparkled below. For a few moments, neither spoke. Then Ethan finally broke the silence. "You know something?" "What?" "I used to think success was the most important thing in life." Sophia looked at him. "And now?" Ethan's eyes stayed on hers. "Now I'm not so sure." The way he looked at her made her heart race. She immediately looked away, because she knew exactly what he was trying to say, and she wasn't sure she was ready to hear it. A few days later, Ethan made a decision. He couldn't keep pretending. He couldn't keep hiding his feelings. He wanted Sophia, not as an employee, not as a friend, not as someone he occasionally spent time with. He wanted a future with her. That evening, he knocked on her office door. Sophia looked up. "Come in." Ethan entered. For once, he seemed nervous, actually nervous. Sophia had never seen that before. "Ethan, can we talk?" "Sure." He took a deep breath, then another. Finally, he spoke. "Sophia, I think about you all the time." Her heartbeat instantly accelerated. Ethan continued. "When something good happens, I want to tell you first." His voice softened. "When something bad happens, you're the person I want beside me." Sophia couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't think, because deep down, she had known this moment was coming. And deep down, she had been afraid of it. "I know you're scared," Ethan said quietly. "I know trust doesn't come easily for you." He stepped closer. "But I need you to know something." His eyes never left her. I've never felt this way about anyone. The room became silent. Sophia felt every wall around her heart begin to crack. For months, she had fought these feelings, denied them, ignored them, buried them. But standing there in front of him, she could no longer lie to herself. She loved him too. And that realization scared her more than anything. Just as she opened her mouth to respond, a knock interrupted them. Both turned. The door opened. A stunning young woman walked inside. Without hesitation, she rushed directly toward Ethan and wrapped her arms around him. Sophia froze. The smile vanished from her face. Ethan looked shocked. But before he could explain anything, Sophia had already taken a step backward. Then another. And in that moment, a terrible misunderstanding began. For several seconds, Ethan simply stood there, staring at the resignation letter. He read it once, then twice, then a third time. The words still didn't make sense. Sophia Carter. Resignation, effective immediately. No explanation. No notice. No goodbye. Nothing. His eyes moved toward the glass walls of her office. The room was empty. The desk was clean. The photographs were gone. The coffee mug she used every morning had disappeared. Every sign of her existence had vanished. A strange feeling settled in his chest. At first, it felt like shock. Then, confusion. Then, panic. Real panic. He immediately picked up his phone. Her number was unavailable. He called again, and again, and again. Nothing. A cold feeling spread through his body. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Within an hour, Ethan had contacted Human Resources. No forwarding address. No emergency contact updates. No information. It was as if Sophia had disappeared. For the rest of the day, he couldn't focus. Meetings passed without him hearing a word. Emails remained unanswered. Reports sat unopened on his desk. Everywhere he looked, he saw reminders of her. The conference room where they worked late together. The break room where she always drank coffee. The elevator where she once laughed so hard she nearly dropped her phone. Everything reminded him of her, and every reminder hurt. That evening, he drove to her apartment. The building manager recognized him immediately, but the answer was the same. She had moved out. Nobody knew where she went. Ethan returned home after midnight. For the first time in years, he couldn't sleep. The apartment felt empty, silent, lifeless. He stared at the ceiling for hours, thinking about every conversation they had shared, every smile, every moment, every opportunity he had wasted. And for the first time, he realized something terrible. He loved her far more than he had ever admitted. The following weeks became torture. At first, Ethan convinced himself she simply needed space. Maybe she would call. Maybe she would return. Maybe she would explain. But she didn't. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Still, nothing. Meanwhile, life continued moving forward for everyone else. The company kept growing. Profits increased. New clients arrived. Employees celebrated promotions. But Ethan felt disconnected from all of it. Nothing seemed important anymore. One evening, Nearly 4 months after Sophia left, Ethan found himself sitting alone in his office. The same office where he had confessed his feelings. The same office where she had looked at him with tears in her eyes. The same office where he should have. His phone buzzed. It was his cousin. The same cousin who had accidentally caused the misunderstanding. "Have you heard from her?" Ethan looked out the window. "No." There was a pause. Then she spoke softly. "You still love her." It wasn't a question. Ethan closed his eyes. Silence followed. Then his cousin said something that stayed with him. "If you love her that much, why are you sitting there?" Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" "Go find her." "I've tried." "No." Her voice became firmer. "You searched." Another pause. Finding someone and searching for someone aren't the same thing. That night, Ethan made a decision. A decision that would change everything. The next morning, he delegated half his responsibilities to senior executives. He postponed meetings, canceled events, rescheduled projects. Then he started looking again. But this time, he wasn't searching from behind a desk. He was searching in person. He visited old places Sophia used to mention. Coffee shops, restaurants, bookstores, neighborhoods she loved. Nothing. Then he contacted former colleagues, former classmates, old friends. Most hadn't spoken to her in months. Some hadn't spoken to her in years. Every lead ended in disappointment. Still, he refused to stop, because each day without her only confirmed one thing. His feelings weren't fading. They were growing stronger. 6 months after she disappeared, Ethan received the first real clue. A former coworker mentioned seeing Sophia's name connected to a publishing company in another state. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Within 24 hours, Ethan was on a plane. For the first time in months, hope returned. A dangerous hope. The kind that makes your heart race. The kind that refuses to let you quit. When he landed, he spent 3 days following every possible lead. Most were dead ends. Some were completely wrong. But on the 4th day, everything changed. A receptionist at a small publishing office looked at a photograph Ethan carried. Then she smiled. "I know her." Ethan's heartbeat stopped. For a second, he couldn't even speak. "You do?" The receptionist nodded. "She worked here for a while." Worked. Past tense. His heart sank again. When did she leave? A few months ago. The disappointment hit him like a punch. Then the receptionist added something else. "I think she moved to a small coastal town." Ethan immediately leaned forward. "What town?" For the first time in nearly a year, he finally had a real direction.
3 days later, Ethan arrived in the coastal town. The moment he stepped out of the car, a cool ocean breeze brushed against his face. Everything felt different here. The air, the people, the pace of life. Nobody seemed to be rushing anywhere. For a moment, Ethan understood why Sophia had chosen this place. After everything she had been through, maybe she had needed peace. Maybe she had needed a place where nobody knew her name. A place where nobody reminded her of the past. A place where nobody reminded her of him. The thought hurt. For nearly a year, Ethan had lived with one question. Did Sophia ever love him? Or had he imagined everything? The way she smiled around him. The way she laughed at his jokes. The way her eyes softened whenever she thought he wasn't looking. Had any of it been real? Or had fear erased everything? Ethan checked into a small hotel near the beach. That evening, he began searching. The town wasn't large. Only a few thousand people lived there. He started with bookstores, then cafes, then local businesses. Most people politely shook their heads. Some had never heard of Sophia. Others thought she looked familiar, but weren't sure. Hours passed. Then days. Nothing. By the 5th day, exhaustion began to settle in. For the first time in months, doubt started creeping into his mind. Maybe he was too late. Maybe she had moved again. Maybe she didn't want to be found. That possibility terrified him. Because if Sophia truly wanted him out of her life, there was nothing he could do. One evening, after another disappointing day, Ethan sat alone near the harbor. The sunset painted the ocean orange and gold. Boats rocked gently on the water. Couples walked hand in hand along the shore. Families laughed nearby. Everyone seemed happy. Everyone except him. He stared at the horizon, thinking about the last time he had seen Sophia. Thinking about the way she looked at him before she left. Thinking about all the things he should have said. Suddenly, a familiar laugh caught his attention. Ethan's heart stopped. For a second, he thought he was imagining it. Slowly, he stood. The sound came again. His pulse immediately accelerated. That laugh. He knew that laugh. He would recognize it anywhere. Without thinking, he moved through the crowd. His eyes searched desperately. People passed in front of him. Tourists. Families. Children. Then finally, he saw her. Sophia, standing outside a small cafe. For a moment, the world disappeared. Everything became silent. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. After 11 months, she was finally standing in front of him. She looked different. Her hair was slightly longer. Her clothes were more casual. She seemed calmer somehow. Lighter than, but she was still Sophia. Still, the woman he had thought about every single day. A smile appeared on her face as she spoke to someone beside her. Then she turned and saw him. The smile instantly vanished. Both froze. Neither moved. The distance between them was only a few yards. Yet it felt like an entire lifetime. Sophia stared at him in complete shock. Her eyes widened. She looked as though she had seen a ghost. Ethan took one step forward, then another. Neither spoke. Neither seemed capable of speaking. Months of pain. Months of questions. Months of longing. All crashing into one moment. Finally, Sophia found her voice. "What are you doing here?" Her words were quiet, barely above a whisper. Ethan stared at her. For months, he had imagined this moment. He had rehearsed speeches, prepared explanations, practiced what he would say. Now he couldn't remember any of them, because all he could think about was the fact that she was standing right in front of him. "I was looking for you." Sophia looked away. "You found me!" The response felt colder than he expected. But Ethan noticed something. Her hands were shaking. Slightly. Almost invisibly. She was nervous too. A long silence followed. Finally, Ethan spoke again. "You left." Sophia swallowed hard. "Yes." "Without saying goodbye." Another silence. The ocean waves crashed softly behind them. People continued walking past. Nobody noticed that two lives were colliding in the middle of the street. "I didn't know what else to do," Sophia said quietly. Ethan looked at her. Pain filled his eyes. "You could have talked to me." Sophia laughed sadly. "Could I?" "Yes." "No." Her voice broke slightly. "You don't understand." "Then help me understand." For a moment, she said nothing. Then, years of fear suddenly spilled out. "I was terrified." Ethan blinked. "What?" Sophia looked directly at him. Tears had begun gathering in her eyes. "I was terrified." Her voice trembled. "Do you know what it felt like?" Months of emotions poured from her all at once. "I spent years convincing myself that I would never trust anyone again." A tear rolled down her cheek. "And then you happened." Ethan stood completely still. "I didn't plan it." Sophia laughed through her tears. "I didn't want it." Another tear followed. "But somehow, you became important to me." Her voice became softer. Too important. Ethan's heart tightened. Because for the first time, she wasn't hiding. For the first time, she was telling him the truth. Sophia looked away toward the ocean. "I was falling in love with you." The words hit him like lightning. For nearly a year, he had dreamed of hearing those words. Now that they were finally real, he could barely believe them. "I was falling in love with you," she repeated. "And it scared me." More tears appeared. "Because if I lost you," her voice cracked, "it would have broken me." Ethan felt his chest tighten. Every painful month suddenly made sense. She hadn't run because she didn't care. She had run because she cared too much. And somehow, that realization hurt even more.